Good morning, Mike, and good morning, Tom. How are you today?
Very good, thank you.
Everybody's good? Okay, great. I want to talk to you this morning, Mike and Tom. Tom is going to ask you a few questions as well, but I want to talk about orals. In our series of training, Mike, you do the second course in the series, which is all about capture. And you've written a book called The Business Development Life Cycle, which speaks to capture. In fact, it speaks to the front end of business development as well as some pieces on delivery. But of all practical purposes, it speaks to capture, which is the middle phase of business development. But you thought so much about one piece of that that you decided to write outside of your book called The Business Development Life Cycle. You decided to write a separate pamphlet on orals. So can you tell us a little bit more about the points that you try to get across in terms of orals coaching?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Thank you for the question. Orals is becoming extremely important. FAR 15102 basically states that anything in any kind of a presentation, response to a solicitation, other than your pricing can be done with orals. And we're seeing some real creative procurement strategies coming out where you might be called in to do an oral presentation on your past performance, and they'll do some sort of a down select. So with the FAR pushing orals, and we're seeing a lot of creative procurements out there, I thought it was important to expand a little bit on just the concept of coaching orals. Talk about things like how people absorb information and how do you develop situational awareness, during an orals presentation. That really is about, decoding body language. But more than just decoding body language, learn how to encode body language to send a message that comes from your entire orals team. And how do we best prepare speakers, So what we did was try to simplify the orals coaching into very phased methods, just like we did with the business development life cycle, very phased methods in getting preparation. So, yes.
Okay.
So thanks, Mike. So you say this, you have a phased method, and I've been through orals coaching multiple times, and everybody seems to have, a different approach type of thing. So do you have a certain methodology you've found is proven and works?
Yes, absolutely. Actually, any kind of presentation, there's a method out there, and I just kind of expanded on it. The idea is the 4 Ps, okay? You plan, you prepare, you practice, and you present. It's that simple. Remember the 4 Ps, and you're planning your presentation in all your life cycle points. I mean, even from point of identifying to capture, you are already preparing for your orals presentation. In preparation, you're actually preparing the slides and you're preparing the story, and in practicing, I kind of stole I grew up in music, and we sang in choirs, and really think about it, you're going to have your key personnel giving an orals presentation. They're all soloists in their by nature, okay? And you got to teach them how to sing as a choir. Well, how do you teach people how to sing as a choir? You go through sectionals. You teach them their part, okay? So you get individual, you're starting to shape what their presentation is, what their message is going to be. Then you pull them together, just like you work with your basses, your tenors, your altos, your sopranos. I mean, it's all the same concept. So we kind of take that practice section and as if we were a choir, and it works. It's very effective. So, and people kind of understand that. And then finally we present, just like you practice. And that's my goal in presentation, just the same way we did as we practiced. So there's no surprises. And so that's the methodology, the format. Plan, prepare, practice, present. Okay.
I absolutely love that analogy. I remember back when I was in school and we used to have to sing, and we had our altos, sopranos, etc., and we all have to learn our part and pull it together. What amazes me today is watching artists, particularly I like jazz, and I watch those artists come together with the saxophones, the horns, the drums, and how they all have their piece, but when they put it together, it's just amazing. So
And
I
they're,
love that about
in
it.
their own right, they are soloists. In their own right, they're ingenious.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very
Well,
good.
I have one last quick question I want to ask you.
Mhm.
In doing, in preparing for presentations, you're going to have extroverts and you're going to have introverts.
Mhm.
Introverts tend to believe that they can just stand up and present, and they do, and they give it their all, and they're high energy, and they do well typically.
Mhm.
But then you got the introvert who not only is afraid to get up there and talk, but they tend to not be able to do it very well on their own. What do you do to help the introverts that you come across?
Okay, so there are 4 presentation styles, and I think we've all heard about them before. Okay, an extrovert's weakness, his strength is the fact that he can get up and impromptu and talk and whatever, but that's really his weakness too. You know, the impromptu speaker doesn't pay attention to time. He doesn't. He chase. I'm a rabbit chaser, so something pops up in my head and I chase that rabbit. Well, I have a certain time frame that I got to be able to work in. And I'd like impromptu speakers, but they could impact the presentation if they go too long. Okay, then somebody else is going to have to adjust. So we say, okay, impromptu, we don't want to see that. We want to work with that. You got manuscript presenters where they read everything, where they have a prompter in front of them. They got to see the words and read that, and they have a tendency to be stiff and don't necessarily come across with the kind of energy that we want. You got your memorizers, okay? They memorize, they're kind of staccato, memorizers will take cues, and then the cues will help them know what the topic is. And I can work with memorizers. Basically, we use the slides as this is where they take their cue, okay? And then there's this phrase, and I have a hard time saying it sometimes, extemporaneous, okay? And extemporaneous it's a lot like the impromptu, but it's really about people who are comfortable with the topic at hand, okay? And whether you are an extrovert or an introvert, okay, you can be an extemporaneous speaker. Matter of fact, some of the best speakers I know are introverts, okay? So the key is to get folks comfortable with the topic, okay? And that's part of the sectionals. So you're going over and over and over again with them till they're comfortable. They don't have to think about it anymore. And what you want from extemporaneous speaker is they got to come across, and Gloria, you kind of push this, as the expert, okay? The idea is that when they speak, when we get them to that level, people look at them and say, that person knows exactly what they're doing. And that's what we're trying to come across with extemporaneous. So it doesn't matter if you're extrovert, doesn't matter if you're introvert. We can coach you to the point where you're so comfortable with the topic that you come across as, I'm the expert in this, and you want me on your team. So yes.
That is so awesome. So true. And I've seen that. So that's a great tidbit for people to, but they're going to get more than a tidbit when they come to your class, because I've watched you teach. And I just want to let our listeners know that Mike Rice is the president and founder of Cornerstone IT LLC. And he's a partner with Parker Group Consulting, offering our second class in the series. So again, we mentioned that the first part of that is business development, the second part is capture, the third part is delivery. So if you want to know more about these classes and get signed up for them, know more about our partners, please go to parkergroupconsulting.com. And you'll see all of us there. You'll read more about our training and see ways that you can sign up to be part of our training series. So thank you very much, Mike. Thank you, Tom. And we'll talk on the other side.
Thank you.
Thanks.